really excited. Thank you for joining us. And please put your hands together for Mark and Hannah.
So we specifically said why brands scared of gamers in 2023 with this horrible, daunting photo. It's supposed to be provocative from the basis that we've I'm going to skip across some slides we have from a previous deck because you don't need to hear about us too much for today. But it's because of this statistic, effectively. So advertising spend on gaming as a channel is growing more slowly than social media and connected TV. So there's never one stat to kind of rule them all. You can read this in different ways. It's gaming as a media channel, so there's a lot of in-game spend. But this kind of was quite surprising for us because take yourselves back to the sunny shores of 2021. There we go. Cool. So this is what everybody was hearing, right? So our deck's moving. Okay. We can just freestyle it. It's all good. Or we can for a sec. Leave it there. All good? Yeah. Cool. So every CMO, and probably a lot of people in this room in 2020, 2021, got a call from a brand manager and said, get me a gaming strategy by next week, right? It was what the metaverse was 2 years later. Everyone was saying, we need a strategy for it. And people were running around to understand what that was because the growth of the category was huge. You got the biggest advertisers in the world, the Unilevers, Fords, IKEAs of this world, all saying that it was the crux of their strategy moving forwards. Which, to that point, what we're really saying is that I think advertisers haven't necessarily put their money where their mouth is. When the category is bigger than TV and film combined, we're up at about 290 billion in terms of revenue last year, according to Newsy research. So we just wanted to understand why. And look, we're an agency that was born in gaming. We're a social agency, and so we tend to work with brands that are either endemic to that space, the likes of Samsung, or brands like Heinz that don't necessarily have that obvious role within gaming. And for us, so we wanted to kind of look at it from a... Cool. Yeah? We're on the hype cycle? Yeah. Cool, great, I can't see it. So for us, it's interesting to understand, and I suppose where we think this is, I love a Gartner hype cycle, but where gaming kind of is on this journey at the moment. I think a lot of people would argue it's at the bottom of the kind of trough of disillusionment. Everybody got very excited a couple of years ago, but actually what do we do with gaming? How do we actually start to show any return of investment within that? And I think, show of hands for anybody who's kind of seen one of these quotes or said one of these quotes and actually given the proposition of investing within gaming. Not seeing an authentic crossover yet, don't really see the return on investment. Have we missed the boat? Don't want to be associated with blood and gore. Don't want to be associated with the idea of kids staying up and playing until 4 a.m. There's a lot of easy reasons to say no to investing in gaming. And I think this is where we think is one of kind of the cruxes behind that stat that we showed you before and why the media investment isn't growing at the rate that we would expect it to. And one of the reasons behind that we wanted to talk about is we think there's quite a two-dimensional categorization of gamers themselves. And I think you'll see kind of a lot of people talking about banning the word gamers. I'm completely behind that. It's a pretty vacuous term now, to be honest. It's like talking about sports people. It's not very helpful when looking at a targeting perspective. So they tend to get categorized by how long they play, casual, mid-core, hardcore, or what you play. Are you a Fortnite player? Are you an EAFC player? Are you a Diablo player? If I'm a Samsung, one of our clients, great. Because I've got different products for a hardcore gamer versus somebody who's a more casual gamer. I can see my authentic way in then. If I'm a Nike, what do I do with that, right? Where do I start to see my product actually play a role? It doesn't really matter to me how much somebody plays necessarily. And actually I don't know if I can see the authentic way for my brand to be within Fortnite versus being in Diablo, that is a game that's completely foreign to my product. So you don't understand kind of where your entry point is. So again, it might be easier to say no to that, which leaves you being a bit confused, which is where I think you start to see a couple of options. Again, apologies if anybody in this room is working on the one on the left, but we're kind of there looking for that authentic role for the brand, which you can end up forcing it, which the Aldi Tea Time Takeover is probably an example of forcing it to an extent in that anybody who saw this campaign, this is where Aldi asked gamers to come downstairs and ask parents to encourage their kids to stop playing, come down and enjoy tea time together and enjoy some lovely Aldi food. Because that's where Aldi's role is, right? Within tea time. That's an authentic place for them to play. do not tell gamers to stop playing. That's kind of the bottom line from this story. And that's where we're forcing an authentic role within that experience. And they got, kind of slammed, took down the campaign, and it's one of many, many, many long stories of brands getting burnt. You saw one just today with Shell creating a map in Fortnite, which was essentially saying Fortnite isn't exciting enough, so come and drive down some roads and fill them up with fuel, fill them up with fossil fuel. Gamers tend to be younger, very environmentally conscious. Again, looks great in a brief, but it's not great in reality. It was quite poorly tested. Versus a DHL, this is quite an old partnership now, but a really great example of kind of best in class of looking at the FEbot. The FEbot is the AI robot that moves around their manufacturing sites and moves their products effectively. But DHL had a partnership with ESL where they understood that, yes, DHL doesn't have an obvious role in gaming, like delivery. Okay, maybe I deliver games, but there's not really an obvious way for them to come in there. But what do you know DHL for? If I'm in a jam and I need somebody to rely on something that's going to get there next day, I rely on DHL. When I'm in need, it's going to come to my rescue. So what they did is create a film where they moved through the Dota 2, so one of the most popular games at the time, and they brought through salves, which are essentially potions and health, and then delivered that through through to an in-game character. And then they also did that at events to the extent that they were giving out digital codes that at an event in Birmingham, an ESL event, there's a video, you can look it up online, where 1,000-person crowd is chanting DHL, DHL. Like, that is beyond earned media. Like, you can't get that. You can't pay for that level of credibility because they knew what their brand stood for, which is about delivering under pressure. And they understood, they found those opportunities to then show that within the gaming space. And that's where, from our perspective, it's quite important to do that more often. So I think if I'm just going to skip to Hannah's part now, if that's right, because we've got some bits in a different space. So look, alignment is all well and good. And it's great to talk about where's that authentic alignment for our brand, but how do you then sell it in internally? Because that's what we're all here for, right? We all know that there might be an authentic opportunity there. And I think a lot of us will have been that gaming person internally that actually gets thrown the strategy because no one else really understands it. And then how do I then sell that in internally? How do I sell it in from an agency to a client? One of our clients, Hannah, has got some great examples of what they've done from a can line winning perspective over the last few years in gaming that I think we can take, kind of anybody can take some really, really valuable lessons from. So at that point, I'll hand it to Hannah.
Great, thank you. So yeah, as Mark said, we're going to hopefully lift the lid a bit today. I don't want to just show you a couple of case studies that I'm sure you might have seen online, the usual results. It's really about like, how did we sell this into our business? And most importantly, what were the learnings that we took from that? So yeah, as I said, we're going to touch on what was the brief, how did we sell it in, and what did we learn? Who in the room has heard of Heinz Hidden Spots, the visual you see on the left? Anyone heard of it? Yep, a few nods and hands. This, for us, was the campaign that really got us excited about what could be possible for our brand in the gaming space. And the reason for that is it was such a clear, strong consumer tension, aligned to our brand purpose, and gave us an authentic right to play, that it was an absolute no-brainer for us to jump into this idea as soon as it was presented to us. So let's have a quick look at the case and we can talk learnings.
These were games back then. Slow, simple, chill. And if needed, we just hit the pause button. These are games now. Fast-paced, complex, professional. And no pause button. When do these people even eat? They don't. Because if you bite, you die. Bite, die. Bite, die. See? So Heinz teamed up with Call of Duty, the #1 game in the world, to figure out the best spots to snack safely on their brand new map, and leaked it to top influencers from around the world. Using burger wraps. This is Heinz Hidden Spots.
Now this is hidden.
I'm going to kick back and dig into my burger.
Perfect spot. We got the nice view. We can eat our burger in peace. No one will find us here. Who would think to find us over here?
They must keep walking unless you go my way.
Effet que ce kill, si je n'avais pas eu mon ketchup Heinz.
Heinz ketchup is giving us energy.
Hidden spot, eat a chip.
In only a few hours, the gaming community got hungry for more, and hundreds of spots were mapped out organically, not only in Call of Duty's new map, but also in other blockbuster games.
The most secret spot on the map. You can actually enter these.
Espérate, tengo que volver mi hamburguesa en el Kairos Group.
That's the Heinz, soldier. Alert terminated. Mission accomplished, soldier.
Heinz hidden spots. Eat burgers, not bullets.
Let me eat my burger in peace!
So this wasn't the first gaming idea that we've been presented as a brand back in 2021 when we launched this. But this was the one, as I said, that had the strongest and most authentic insight that gave us a clear role for our brand. Hence why it was the one we kind of went all in as a business to make a success. And what also was really interesting about this, and I think helped us a lot when we were trying to sell this in to various stakeholders, is the fact that it was a simple but really powerful idea. So whether you game or not, you understand the concept. And I think you can't underestimate the value of that when you're speaking to legal, finance, marketing, various markets. And I remember at the time, I feel like the business just had that gut instinct because it made such logical sense. And it really helped us, I think, sell this in and get people excited and wanting to do that. And lastly, the way that we launched this, I think, also helped us on that journey. So as I said, this was probably the first campaign that we went all in for, but we first launched it in just 3 markets. So again, creating that small test environment that brought that safety, I guess, for the business that at the time was still very much, putting their guard up when it comes to gaming, nervous, questioning whether it's the right thing to do. So launching small and then keeping a close eye on that. So we monitored, we quite quickly saw that the momentum was building, and then we scaled it to 10 more markets in less than 2 weeks, which when you're going to a market asking them to make space in their very packed calendar and move media money to back this in such a short space of time, having those true results and proven success in a couple of markets was game-changing for us to sell this in with the speed that we did it, as you saw in the video. But obviously that's all great, and we had some incredible results, as you saw, but quite quickly the questions then started coming. What's your gaming strategy? Are you doing a gaming platform? What's next? How are we moving? Are we going to scale? Are we going to pivot? And instead of running with this, and we often, had many conversations of, can we take this concept and run it in different games, different markets? But we actually took a step back and thought, you know what? The right thing for us at this time is to take a breath and actually learn and understand this audience on a much greater level. So the next initiative that we did is what you see here, which is our Heinz Heroes Ambassador Program. So we went to the guys at Kairos and said, look, our mission here is just to learn more about the gamers, audience, what motivates creators in this space, what do they want to see from brands, and what makes sense. And the proposal that we had here is we work with 3 creators in the UK, so just one market, for a couple of months on an ongoing basis. And the number one objective of this program was to learn, which might sound strange when you're thinking of talking with creators. It's often, around, okay, what impressions, what reach, what are we aiming for? Genuinely, the KPIs were just to learn, get insight, understand, look even at brand sentiment, all those kind of more qualitative metrics that were most important for us at that time. And honestly, this program, I think, for us was game-changing. It was such an eye-opener, even to the most basic level of just getting the business used to a live stream, which was new for us at the time. The chat, how the chat talks, terminology within the chat, which is truly like a whole different world for a lot of people. So doing that in such a safe environment was really great, I think, for us to grow our confidence as a business, and also with the creators at the time. We did live focus groups, if you want to call them that, with these creators. And I think it was just as much of a learning experience for us as it was for the creators themselves to talk directly to a brand. So yeah, hopefully that gives a bit of a snippet of the journey we've been on.
We got a minute more? 1. So I'm going to go back to a previous slide that I skipped over just to do our final 30 seconds, if that's all right, if you'll let me. That one, yeah? Cool. So we talked about that two-dimensional categorization of brands, of gamers, of when they play and what they play. One lesson to take away from today that I think Heinz have had at the center of everything they do is understanding why they play. So like, what is the motivation? This is something you might have seen circulating around, but talking around, do you play to achieve something? Is it about you leveling up? Can you start to see an element of your brand that you can align with that? I had the example of Nike, right? I can't see any of my brand in Diablo, but I can see a lot of my brand in achievement. So there's like there's something for you to start to cling onto there. Versus the likes of a connection, which is what I think Heinz looked at. Your social gamers, I play to meet friends, I play to create social capital, something I can talk about on social, which is what Hidden Spots did a great job of. There wasn't a role for ketchup necessarily, there wasn't a role for beans within Call of Duty, but there was a role for connecting people. So can we do that in a way that allows them to have something to talk about, eat that burger, make a joke, and something that we can actually tag along to and have associated with the brand. So that's kind of the lesson from our perspective of why brands kind of scared of gamers at the moment is because they can't see an authentic way in for themselves. So start by looking at why somebody plays and then look at what your existing brand platform is, and it can become a little bit less scary. I think that's us.